All right, welcome everybody here today. I am joined by Mark Shepard, who is joining me from across the Atlantic. Welcome, Mark. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Nice to see you.
Thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit about some acupuncture, Mark's journey through it, and probably some other interesting things that you want to stick around for. So Mark, why don't we start off if you can just kind of talk to us about your beginnings, how you got into this field.
Yeah, most certainly. Most certainly. It's so, so I've been practicing now. It's going to be 13 years in August, and it all started really for me when I was going through a prolonged period of ill health myself, which I wasn't really getting much success with in terms of conventional medicine, in terms of just getting answers. I mean, what they could do is they could give me medication if things kind of went wrong, but they couldn't actually give answers in terms of how to put it right, how to do anything about it. And it was worsening at the time. I mean, what it was for me at the time was allergy. And allergies, it's going to be a funny way of putting it, but allergies weren't so popular then. So when you were buying foods and things, the labels would be very nondescript, or they would be, or you'd buy products and things you're trying to avoid were written in Latin or not even there at all. So it was quite difficult, and it really quite impacted me at the time. And so eventually, I ended up seeing a conventional medical doctor, consultant in the UK, who put me on to who went through various options with me, and he said that, well, you could go down this route, but that's not for you, is it? I think you should see this person. And he told me about a guy called Dr. Raymond Choi, and he works very holistically. He's up in London, and for me, being with him was really quite life changing. But before getting to there, and he would do muscle testing, so sort of like kinesiology type testing, and then giving supplements and giving like medications to take, but more homeopathic medications. But before being able to get to him, it took a really long time to be able to achieve that. I started looking at, I went to the library, I thought I'm going to take out a really big book on holistic therapy. I'm not going to go through to I find something that works. And so I tried sort of like Reikis and reflexologies and things. And so progressively I was getting better. And so things are a lot better than they ever have been, really. But along the way, that I decided really that this is something I wanted to go into. Um, Sometimes when I was talking to people who were trying to get answers the Western way, they were absolutely fantastic, but they were clearly doing the best. Other people were clearly not interested. And so I just wanted to do something where I felt people would be able to be listened to, and just be given different options to explore. And I suppose the different options is what took me the route I've taken, rather than maybe looking at the Western medicine side. And so alongside that, I've been doing martial arts on and off since I was 17, and initially karate. My karate instructor started doing Tai Chi, but she didn't really tell us she was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
In preparation for a demonstration, she did this technique for me, which just absolutely threw me across the room. And we just mucking around. I'm not mucking around. Just threw me across the room. Anyway, so she told me what she was doing. It was Tai Chi that she'd done, and we left it in the demo, and I ended up sitting on some people. And but it showed me there are some other different things out there. So when I was looking at martial arts, I used to really enjoy reading about it. I came across a martial art which is called Shuri, and I believe it's Shaolin Long Fist was one of the apologies if I'm getting that wrong, but was one of the sources there. There was a guy called the Dochin Cho who came back to Japan. The story is that he trained up locals, and the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia, out of their village, and it's gone on to be a huge martial art in Japan. But what attracted me to it was, as well as doing punches, kicks, and throws, they also teach you how to look after people, how to resuscitate people. And in the sessions, they'll do like a massage on your training partner afterwards, like a therapeutic massage. And this whole yin yang side of things, about having those both sides, really attracted me. And so, even though I'd never had acupuncture, I just decided, you know what, I really want to do this. And I looked into it and I found like, you know, it. I thought, well, no, it's just too much. But then a few years later on a holiday, I went to a 3 week holiday, actually in Australia. And a 3 week holiday is a dangerous amount of time, if you think. And I just thought, well, if I'd done it the first time, I'd actually be doing acupuncture by now. So I made the decision to do it and went down to a local acupuncturist and said, look, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? Can you show me what it feels like? And she just smiled, raised an eyebrow, and out came the needles. And it was just brilliant. And yeah, she loved it. And yeah, and it just went from there, really. And so then I started looking around at colleges and went to a few open days, went to one which I just really liked the feel of. And thankfully went through the application process, got in, and off we went.
Nice. What was the program like?
So I thought it was I really liked the program, but what it did was it dealt with two main styles of acupuncture. So it dealt with the TCM acupuncture,
Mhm.
which is the one which most people know. I think it's fair to say. I don't know if that's the same in the States,
Yes.
the official Chinese medicine version thereof. Um, and but also did 5 element constitutional acupuncture, which is an acupuncture system which was more developed from the Chinese classics, but more developed as an interpretation in the 60s by a guy called J.R. Worsley, who was one of the first people in the UK to do acupuncture. That indeed then spread around the UK and in the States and various other countries around the world as well. And it's just looking at things in very different ways. So with the traditional Chinese medicine, it's like going through the idea of is the problem an external condition, internal? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? And and so on. And taking the 5 element idea, it's well, regardless of the condition, who's actually the person? And it's diagnosing dependent on person type. And the idea with that is that once you identify a person type, then after the 10 major acupuncture channels, the idea is you can treat most things with just two, because it hits someone at a deep constitutional level. And it's just whatever's going on with them. It is, particularly with more chronic conditions, but not always, it's just a bragging wave to say that they're basically out of balance, that their constitution needs to be supplemented, because once that's done, these things are just going to start getting better anyway. And you can have such beautiful results with that. And so yeah, I really enjoyed my time there. And and it's one thing I came across when I think I might have been studying acupuncture. I came across the expression that just because you have got a hammer, don't let everything look like a nail. So it's really understanding what
Yeah.
things you should try and be using at the right time, or saying, actually, I think you need to go and see somebody else, and and we can work together at the same time. Or right now, you really need to go and do something. Yeah, so it's just lovely having that initial set of two different tools to work with, along with using ear acupuncture, um, which is very popular, and also using cupping, sort of like the glass jars with flame, for those that don't know, to go sucked in. So it's like, I describe it as a backward massage, which can be very good,
Hmm.
and moxa, which is a heating treatment. So that's kind of how things initially kicked off, anyway.
No, that's awesome. I love the way you kind of described that too, and went into the 5 element description a little bit as well.
Yeah, the 5 elements is a it's quite a fascinating way of looking at things.
Yeah.
And so when we first started training, each of the 5 elements is just a way of describing different aspects of nature. And because we are an aspect of nature, we can fit in that as well. And so different parts of our personality resonate more with others. So more of a fire nature, um, is for them, the prominent personality type in balance is to do with joy, and the whole idea of laughter can go up and down like a flame. There's something mood can go up and down very quickly. There's like a flame, And then they talk about the wood element being associated with anger, but not anger necessarily being a bad thing, more like a catalyst change and about how wood bursts out and grow. And so it's just using analogies, really. I mean, when I'm talking to people in terms of Chinese medicine, um, what I say to them that Chinese medicine generally makes sense if you put the words "it's a bit like" in front of it. So I'm
Yeah.
saying it's just like it's someone thousands of years ago having a chat with someone going, look, it's a bit like this. And so, and it's the same now. It's just different language which we're using now. And so, I mean, the five elements now. I said if they did it, if it was devised now, it might not even be talking about elements. It might be talking about departments of organisation. You got the personnel, you got the manufacturing, you got the. So it's just a way of understanding yourself and finding out what's key and true. Yeah.
No, I think that's a good way to put it because, a lot of people, especially nowadays, I don't think we're really encouraged to embrace creativity as much. And it's kind of more of an abstract way of looking at things. And
Hmm.
people are just kind of like very, well, because I think they're forced to be like very tunnel vision and not
Uh-huh.
looking out. And kind of based on what you were describing, I get it's kind of a more abstract way, but just a really good way of helping to analyze. And with that, as a practitioner, I'm sure that helps guide you through knowing how the person is, guide you into what sort of treatment will really work for them, right?
Yeah. I mean, and so it's when you have different tools to use, um, as with yourself, it's deciding where do I want to go first. And it all depends on it's a whole consultation, what you, as well as what the person is saying to you in terms of nuts and bolts about this doesn't work, this is how it doesn't work. It is who they are and how they are. And so sometimes when things have happened to people, you start talking about their life and what was going on about the same sort of time in their life. And they're going, it never occurred to me that these things happened about the same time. And then you can start going a little bit deeper. And with acupuncture, I think it's great at just kind of clearing things out. I describe it as like shaking out the blanket, just refreshing. And it's a way of, I think with acupuncture, you can help um, with emotional digestion. And I think the opposite to that is emotional indigestion. Indigestion is never comfortable anyway. And it's just a great way of working. And what you can do with the five elements, a greater understanding of yourself. But suddenly you go, oh, that's why I behave like that. Or, when I'm throwing my toys out the pram, this is how I behave. Um, but the most important thing I think with the five elements is remembering that we have within us all those different emotional types. Whilst one of those emotional types will be slightly out of kilter, or quite a lot out of kilter, depending on who it is, um, still experience all of them. When someone's diagnosed with a constitutional type, it really isn't unheard of for a way down the line for something to happen. A practitioner goes, "Do you know what? I really want to tell you with this." And so, and as the treatment unfolds, and I say that because it's don't try and own your person type too much. If you do find out what it is, a while later it might just change, and you have to have that's what it is. But yeah. So is that making sense?
Yeah, no, I like that. The indigestion part, especially. I mean, I don't like
Mm.
indigestion, but your analogy of that makes
Yeah,
total sense. Because I mean, I don't think a lot of times, and people are not taught to that understand that we internalize so many things
yeah.
and how that can affect us.
Mm.
You know, like is that your experience?
It is. I mean, it's we're all designed to experience different emotions. It's our coping mechanism, and but it's when they get ingrained, and that is the almost like the constant underlying hum. It can really disrupt us so long. So and each of the emotions again is associated with the organs, and when you look at how they were chosen, which organs had which emotion associated with them so many thousands of years ago, and how they actually tie into more modern science now, it's fascinating. Such as kidneys were always associated with fear, and on the kidneys, we've got the adrenals, and it's really fascinating. But someone is always in a state of fear. It's just exhausting.
Hmm.
And you'll get certain traits and problems arising out from that, both physically and in their life. If someone is t continually worried, how that's and not just on a low level, a really deep worry all the time, then people find it affects their digestion because like butterflies in the stomach. Now, it doesn't have to be that linear. Um, so, and so sometimes with a practitioner, if someone comes in with digestive issues, you might go, are they a worrier? Well, they might be, but it might be something further down the line that's causing it. But I think you can see problems that arise. I mean, skin conditions, for example. I think there's a lot of emotion involved in some skin conditions. It's the body just trying to relieve, trying to purify. Um, and so it's very interesting to track back about what's been going on there and take it forward. Now, but it doesn't mean for everybody I go down the 5 element route. And since then, I've gone into other styles. I don't know whether you yourself touched on things like the balance method, for example, which was a real eye opener for me. So it's different tools I use, um, and it's just going through that initial consultation. Sometimes you just feel that somebody really needs this, and if someone, for example, really starts opening up to you, then I might start going 5 element first, because
Hmm.
it's that they come in about something physically, and we've got a consultation which might last half an hour out of the time we've got allocated, 45 minutes, whatever. But even though it's about their knee, they spend half an hour talking about something else.
Hmm.
So why are they there? And they're there because they came in for their knee. So say, right, we're going to treat the knee, but what can we be doing for the rest of them? And it's amazing how just by not actually treating a knee, by treating a person, people come back and said, oh, I went away at the weekend. I did all this work walking, and for some reason, I don't know why, my knees didn't hurt. And it's just fascinating. The body wants to mend. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's all really fascinating. I mean, hopefully people are enjoying this. I think they should be, because I mean, it's just some things that might seem somewhat obvious to us as practitioners, but I don't think
Mhm.
patients or people that have not experienced this sort of treatment really understand that. Um,
Yeah.
are there other, I know you touched on down balance method, are there other like treatment types or specialties that you also lean toward and incorporate into your practice?
Well, I think a lot of the time I'm using balance method acupuncture, which has really been made very well known by Dr. Tan. And I was lucky enough to have a couple of trainings with him, and
Wow.
so which is very different in its application, as he would say, where you don't put any needles where the problem is, you put the needles somewhere else, and it's kind of like a seesaw effect, or you use the light switch to go to the light rather than going directly where it is. Um, so that's fascinating, because, and the fascinating thing about that is you might have someone in pain who within a second notice a change, and for someone who's in pain, that's really great. Um, and what I tend to do is I think in my work I tend to go through phases. I go through a 5 element phase where I'm treating lots of people with that. Then someone comes in the door and I think, do you know what? This isn't for them. I need to do this. And then it takes a wave of doing something else. And so really, I ask myself whether I should actually be concentrating more on just one. I think, well, if I did that, I wouldn't have picked up this, I wouldn't have picked up that. And so it's always trying to get to what I think is the best for any one individual, and just being willing to be open to trying different things, and not trying to be fixed in what I think the first time,
Hmm.
but allowing things a chance to work.
Hmm.
Because while we do want wonderful things to happen immediately, I think that things do need to grow. And I say to someone, it's like, you've just come home and someone's forgot to water the flowers. So you start putting some water in. Some of them are going to perk up really nicely, which is brilliant. Some of them will take a little bit more time. And the
Hmm.
ones that perk up really quickly, well, if you stop watering them before they get recovered, what's going to happen? So, it's just being able to nurture them. So it's kind of the commitment that goes with the treatment.
Yeah, very well put.
Um, because that way we can do the best for people rather than um, rather than feeling like the job is half done.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Do you have, I mean, it sounds like you really treat the person holistically, so from the inside out kind of, which I think is really, really awesome. Do you have any, say, like specific conditions that you really enjoy treating?
Um, so that is a really good question.
Yeah, thank you.
I What I find is that rather than the condition, I I enjoy the result for the patient.
Uh,
So I can get things which I find really interesting and I want to get into, but it's more that someone might come in with because their wrist hurts, and someone might come in because their digestion's treating them badly. Someone might come in because they're anxious. As for me, is for whatever it is, they're going out feeling better. I suppose the things that we have had ourselves that we can relate to, it's that sometimes we might um, have a special interest when someone comes in the room because we have the empathy. So many conditions people suffer with are invisible. Someone's walking along with their arm in a sling. It's like, oh, what's happened? What's wrong? If someone's going along in pain and no one can see it, then no one knows anything's wrong, and it's hard for people to understand. They need the visual. So, I suppose the shorter answer is it's um, maybe no. I kind of like being quite general in what I do. And going back to something you said earlier on, I think was really interesting about how people don't necessarily appreciate what can come from this. And I remember after my first week on the degree course, I was sitting there thinking about the lecturers, thinking these people are obviously really intelligent people, but really quite mad. And what on earth have I done? And and then we had this exercise with one of the instructors, and it was so bizarre because she just got us to walk around the room, and she showed us on her body where an acupuncture channel might run, and asked us to imagine that area absolutely bursting outwards and also really, really diminishing. She asked how we felt, wrote it on the board, and obviously at that time we didn't know anything. And then we sat down, opened our textbooks, and it matched. So what should be happening for that channel when it's either there's too much going on and not enough? How we felt walking around imagining it tallied with what was in the textbooks, which said to
huh.
me, okay, maybe they're not so bad.
Yeah,
And it was
yeah.
it was a it was a really reassuring, a very reassuring moment. But yeah, that
Wow.
then you just get caught by the wave and off you go to the time they let you go into practice. And just remember going in just before we actually let loose on real people, thinking, if it works. And yeah, it was okay. It was
That's awesome. I think I'm not sure what your experience is, but I mean, I think even clinically, that, after you've been in practice for several years, still, I think you come across those moments where you see something and just the result for the patient, you're like, wow, like that,
yes,
you know it's going to work, but then it works even significantly better than you anticipated. And you're like,
mm,
wow, that was strong.
yes, yeah, and it's you just want to see that spread out across everybody else, and it is fascinating when you see things happen like that. And just going back to your question earlier on, actually about what I really enjoy in treating
Yeah.
is while I do enjoy treating everything, one of my things when I first started treating is that I wanted to help people who really felt like they've been kicked around by the world.
Hmm.
Those are people who just been through a really tough time, for whatever reason it might be, and just sort of like help them on their way again. Just that kind of like try and generate that phoenix effect in them. And people talk about getting back to where they were, and sometimes it's never going to be that. Sometimes it's stepping forward into something else. But being able to lift people up and just give them the strength to get on and do and get on to better times. That was a real big pull for me in terms of how I want to work. But then you just start hearing about other things that people suffer with, which you've never even heard of. You just think, oh my God, I
Yeah.
really want to try and make a difference here.
Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. Like, there's just so many ways and directions you can go
Mm.
and to help people. And I mean, it sounds like you touch like kind of a pretty broad spectrum of people, which I think is pretty awesome. And probably like you said, they come in for a wrist injury, and then next thing you know, I mean, their stress has gone down and they're sleeping better, and all these other positive
Yes,
outcomes.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things is realizing that sometimes the things we do that doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes a simple treatment can have a huge effect.
That's true. Yeah, so true. And like the body is amazing. I mean, just the way it's connected, its self repair mechanisms. There's just so many things going on that, I mean, just in our conversation right now, I mean, millions of things have occurred that don't even think about.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
where can people find you?
So I'm in Donington, in Chichester, in West Sussex, which is right down on the south coast. And my website is www.shepherd-holistic.co.uk. And so I'm down in Chichester, West Sussex.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to try to put that information as well down in the end of the video. Can you think of anything else you'd like to add in here at the end that maybe you really wanted to touch on that maybe we haven't gotten to today?
Um, I don't think so, other than something that we've mentioned when were talking before, i- is that there is so much out there in terms of acupuncture. One thing I try and tell people, let them know that acupuncture is an umbrella term, and that's because someone's had acupuncture somewhere, and maybe it felt right, maybe it didn't feel right. There is just so much out there, so many different styles. Acupuncture is like food. You can go to a French restaurant, you can go to an Italian restaurant. You might go to one Italian restaurant and it's not for you, but another Italian restaurant is just amazing. So, and I think really give it a go. If you're not sure, just give it a go, because so many people, once they have had treatment, they associate acupuncture with their time and relaxation. And
Hmm.
it might be because they go in because something hurts, but they also go in because they just have a, such a deep restful experience, and then they get up after the time on the couch going, oh, it just feels like I've had a decent night's sleep, and that's a lovely way. So it changes from a particular need or a crisis point to something that they really enjoy, which is lovely to see.
That's fantastic. Well, I had a really good time doing this today. You really brought forth some really amazing information. Like even me as a practitioner helped me. So hope everybody's enjoyed watching it today. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe. We'd love your input. And thank you again, Mark.
Oh, thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you.